Good morning, everyone. I'm very happy that you're all here this morning, and we want to welcome you to our panel. This is Breaking Barriers 2020, and this is our Families and Community in Action panel. First, we're going to start out with some introductions. I'm Dr. Mildred Brown, and I'm a retired SELPA director and assistant superintendent in Mount Diablo Unified School District. And since I retired a few years ago, I have been on the board for Breaking Barriers, as well as working in supporting school districts in developing programs very similar to Mount Diablo's Mental Health Collaborative. I want to be able to be sure we have time to introduce all our panelists. I'm going to start with Lori.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lori Lytel, Executive Director at United Parents. We are located in Ventura County, and we've been working with families locally for the past 30 years. We have 4 primary programs: parent partners who work with families in the home to reduce crisis and conflict. We have a respite program which provides short-term break to parents that helps reduce their stress and provides fun activities for the children. We have an educational advocacy program where we assist parents in navigating the complex special education system. And we oversee Parents and Caregivers for Wellness, where we outreach to educate, train, and advocate with parents statewide to have a voice in decisions involving their children's mental health services.
Thank you. Tanya.
Good morning. My name is Tanya Mccollum, and I am with Alameda County Behavioral Health Care. I work for the Office of Family Empowerment. I am well, my title is Program Specialist, but doesn't really say what I do. I am a family member within behavioral health care, within the administrative side of behavioral health care. And the Office of Family Empowerment works on working with family members and getting their voices into the public mental health system. We also work with agencies that have hired family partners so that they can work more effectively with the family partners. We provide trainings and we develop curricula. We do presentations, we do support groups. We just do a lot of different things, and our main goal is to bring family voice in a meaningful way into behavioral health care. And we also are looking at addressing social injustice within the system, specifically racial injustice. Thanks.
Jevon.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Javon Wilkes, Executive Director with the California Coalition for Youth and the Director of Youth Engagement with the California Children's Trust. Our collective goal is to really make sure that young people have what they need to thrive and be successful in their autonomous journey, and make sure that they have a sense of identity as they go through life. And one of those things is to make sure that we follow up on public policy, that we make sure that there's accessible resources, one through our California Youth Crisis Line, and that we educate and build confidence in agencies, communities, so that one, they understand that there are opportunities to bolster what they do in regards to serving young people in their social and emotional development. And of course, in all is to make sure that we provide these young people with a village. So I'm Javon Wilkes, and thank you. I'm excited to be here.
And Maya.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to join you today. My name is Mayra Alvarez. I have the honor of serving as president of the Children's Partnership. The Children's Partnership is a statewide policy and advocacy organization that focuses on advancing policy to improve the lives of children and young people through our partnerships on the ground with quality research and identifying policy priorities that really reflect the needs of the communities we serve. We really pride ourselves on partnership and recognizing that no one gets to where they're going alone. So in thinking through what a child health equity agenda looks like, it has to be informed by organizations that are serving families directly. And we see ourselves as a partner in ensuring that the priorities that our policymakers, our elected officials, our administration officials are moving forward are reflective of the needs of those communities, especially in these times. That power partnership is critical to not only leveraging resources, but it's need today. And that's only possible by working together. So we do some community partnerships with schools and community organizations, primarily over the last 4 years. We focused much of our efforts around the impacts of immigration enforcement on young people. And right now, obviously, with the multiple crises facing families, we are honored to work with our community partners to continue to do that work in educating and resourcing families with the information and tools that they need to do it.
Today, we are going to have an opportunity to hear from each one of our panelists in regards to 2 questions. Breaking Barriers has always put families first as far as family engagement and empowering families to be able to work with agencies very similar to what we've already heard in our first question. And starting with Lori, that based on your agency and background, how has your work and involvement with families and youth been impacted by the pandemic?
Overall, United Parents has had to stop our services because staff and priority. We moved to a virtual platform very quickly once we were at home with the pandemic. And it has had some positive and some negative effects on our families. The personal one-to-one can of all of our work. So it has been challenging, especially as the pandemic has invaded our lives for so many months now. While we try to maintain contact with our families on a weekly, parents are having to navigate their kids' schooling on a daily basis. Oftentimes, they're not necessarily having the time or energy to things are going with them. Also, particularly with some of our Latinx families, we hear from parents that children are really falling behind because some of those parents work the kids are doing in school. So this is a really large problem we found where there's another primary language in the home other than English. This causes a lot of stress for both parents and the children. And a lot of parents feel the children are really, really missing out on the social aspects of school. While our respite program is not, again, we're engaging in person, we are doing FaceTime, Skype, and phone meets with youth, where our workers may assist with homework, play games, or just chat. But that's been challenging since all the children don't necessarily have their own phones or computers. Families are not reaching out as much as normal because they're a little exhausted from the daily burdens placed on them with homeschooling, working from home, working away from home, loss of income and resources, etc. So we feel it's had a significant impact on the emotional well-being of all the family members. In terms of meeting the special needs of kids at school, IEPs have been delayed, and many services that are needed are not happening. We think this is the case in communities all across the state. On the positive side, we've had significant increased participation in multiple multiple parent support groups. And our statewide educational webinars have had double to triple the normal parent attendance. Our recent suicide prevention webinar had more than 100 participants. And additionally, finally, United Parents has been able to assist more than 48 families with emergency needs, concrete needs such as food, diapers, computers for kids, car repairs, and utility bills.
Thank you. We're having just a little bit of technical difficulties with our internet. It says that it's unstable. So we're turning off our cameras just so when the speaker is speaking, hopefully there won't be any interruptions. So I'm going to introduce Jevon, and thank you, Lori. Can you turn your camera off?
Yes. Hi, Javon Wilkes, again with the California Coalition for Youth and with the California Children's Trust. And during this pandemic, actually, let's start off with before we figured that it was a good opportunity because we were looking so well here in California that we were going to be able to push certain bills across, follow policies and initiatives to make sure that young people have what they need, social development, and make sure that their mental health is taken care of. Well, now we're in the pandemic, and honestly, we have just on the legislative side, there's been less bills, there's been less laws passed, policies, of course, looking at it, making sure that advocacy is done and the voices are brought to the table so that young people have their say, so that agency have their say, and so that community have their say when it comes to the development and or the restructure and reimagination of some of these policies that have hindered us from continuing the future and a thriving future, which is allowing our young people to thrive. So with that, there is a lot that has been done. Of course, with CCY, we have all of our crisis counselors have the option of working remotely so that we can make sure that our California Youth Crisis Line, which is operated by us, is available, accessible to young people, their families, caregivers, community members that are looking to make sure that young people is really to set a foundation for young people to inherit a good working system that take care of their social and emotional well-being. With the California Children's Trust, you can go to their website. You will see all the amazing work that is being done, all of the papers that is being developed, all of the reports. That information can go out, information that can build the confidence to really utilize the resources that are currently available. We must make sure that we make those missed opportunities right and that we make them a possibility and a probability, because it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when we have the resources available to make sure that our young people have what they need to thrive. And so that's kind of where we have been in regards to supporting young people and their families and also the communities right now during this pandemic.
All right, thank you. Mayra, you have the last question and our last 5 minutes for this question. Thank you.
Great, thank you. So I'm sorry for the technical difficulties if this doesn't come out clear, but hopefully it'll be okay. So as a state advocacy organization, we really see our responsibility in partnering with organizations like this and be able to inform our policy agenda. And at this time, we really see that families are facing multiple crises. Of course, you've got the COVID-19 pandemic, you've got this challenging economy, and use the same families that have those challenges seemingly piled on top of one another. It's Latinx, it's Black, immigrant families, Indigenous communities who really continue to bear the brunt of the pandemic and is shouldering the frontline work that's kept our states, our country's economy running. And it's those families of color with children that are being hit hardest. I mean, in California alone, it's 75% of our COVID. So that as we're moving forward a policy agenda, heading into a very challenging year that we know will be difficult from the economic standpoint, how can we ensure that we are centering the needs of these communities and their children in order to really reflects and meets them where they are? Because now is the time to do better for our kids. And as we consider what families need today to support their child's well-being, it's clear that we need California to invest in a robust safety net to make sure that families are able to enroll in the programs for which they're eligible easily and seamlessly, that we have investments in our schools, our public education systems that not only focus on, but to Javon's point, the many other aspects of well-being, social emotional development, socialization, and other benefits that those school environments provide. So those investments will be critical, but also continued support for other services such as food programs like SNAP and WIC, and then always emphasizing prevention and early intervention in mental health, especially for our young people. And again, really thinking through what it is, putting up a discussion at the federal level, thinking through this question of universal supports for families, whether it's healthcare or income, or as we have seen is so critical in this pandemic, the internet. These are all critical components of a family's ability to raise healthy children and healthy young people. And that's what we're trying to ensure, that as we move forward a policy agenda that accurately reflects the needs of communities, we try and focus our efforts and continue to work with community organizations to ensure that they're engaged in those processes and leading the way.
Thank you, Mayra. And yes, it was very clear. And I love that topic of developing a safety net. And that brings us to our next question, which is, what strategies have you found to be successful in connecting families and youth to mental health resources, particularly during this time? Thank you. We'll start with Lori.
Okay. So shortly after the shelter-in-place directive was established and we realized the pandemic wasn't ending anytime soon, we strategized about how to reach out to families across the state. By April, we coordinated a statewide effort with our key partners, California Alliance of Caregivers, California Adoptive Families Alliance, East Bay Children's Law Offices in Kamasi, to survey parents statewide to see how they were dealing with the pandemic and what, if any, assistance they needed. In April and May of 2020, we contacted more than 800 families statewide that had attended our events over the last 3 years. In addition, we contacted 200 of our own client families in Ventura County. Most parents really appreciated the check-in call. When we had to leave messages for folks, we heard back from about 25% of the people that we called. For the parents that were in any type of distress, we provided ongoing phone support until we could find a local resource to provide the assistance they needed. Most parents at that time were feeling some stress, but we know that it has increased significantly due to the many additional months the pandemic has raged on. At this point in time, we know that remote learning has become increasingly difficult for families that have a child with mental health or different special need. We and our partners find local resources and continue to follow through with parents to provide emotional support. Some helpful hints and resources for parents and caregivers that we have provided to caregivers. Some of these are really what concrete support is in times of need. Of course, a most protective factor. Computers for classrooms, finding families with low-priced refurbished computers. Food pantries and the CalFresh website. Free phones to facilitate another protective factor, which is social connections. And we have found that they can be found by people just Googling free phones. And also childcare supplies, like much needed diapers and formula. Again, easy to Google and find free resources for families. Some other suggestions and resources that we have offered to parents to help them cope are to not ignore their own needs for adult conversation, exercise, quiet time or sleep, to plan at least 15 minutes of time for yourself every day. To have quiet space or noise canceling headphones for yourself as a parent or for the children. To get outdoors as much as possible for meals, learning, breaks, exercise, and chores. And to, when it's possible, to create a small COVID cohort to share childcare and supervision duties with. Also, paying older kids to supervise younger children so you can get a break. Some good resources that we have found for parents are Upchieve and online tutoring resources. Regional Center is providing services. There are in-home aides. There's a website for setting up virtual therapy. There are local childcare resource and referral networks, county family resource centers, local boys and girls clubs, county Office of Education, and kinship navigator programs. And then another thing that we've also provided during this time is statewide webinars for parents that have been very well attended. One was Therapeutic Art for Children, where we sent every registrant an art kit for projects that they could do with their children. And then we did training online and had all the families participating together. And we had one on the human body's natural reset button, where we provided and taught yoga and breathing techniques to help parents to de-stress. And United Parents is also sending out monthly informational newsletters, which also include any COVID-related responses. Thank you.
I'm going to call on Tanya. Tanya, can you respond to both questions, given the fact that I was distracted with trying to deal with the internet and trying to get a better feed, and respond to both questions, please. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I actually agree with everything that's been said with regards to how the pandemic has impacted families. I think because I work with family partners as well as with families in the community, one of the things that I am seeing that's really critical is just the isolation that families are feeling. Before the pandemic, that was always an issue, that a lot of families who have children with mental health challenges are, they feel isolated anyway. They feel that they've lost contact with friends. Their kids generally don't have a lot of friends. So the isolation was always an issue. And I think with the pandemic, it's become even more an issue because now they're not going to school. They may not be receiving the supports that they need. So that's something that I've seen has been a real challenge. And as a result of that, we at the Office of Family Empowerment, we've been working really hard on trying to close that isolation gap, if you will. We do virtual parent cafes for family members in the community. And we also believe very strongly that family members should be the ones that facilitate these cafes. So we train the families to be facilitators. So not only are we helping them to not be isolated, we are also helping them to build some skills as well as to build a community, because now they have a community of family members that are being trained together. So they get to broaden their community. We are also, I spend a lot of time with the family partners specifically and helping them to not feel isolated, because they're also family members themselves with children that are at home with them. And they are also trying to work with other family members that are struggling with the same things that they're struggling with. So I do a learning community with the family partners, so that they can get the support they need, so that they feel that they can go out there and continue to be, for all intents and purposes, essential workers in this field. So the family partners feel that they're being supported so that they can go out and continue to support the families that they serve. I'm getting ready to, in December, to do a self-care Zoom with the family partners only, so that we can, play some games, maybe do some laughing, dancing on camera, whatever we need to do to release some stress, because the family partners really are the ones that are out there. We have family partners that are actually dropping off care packages at families' homes, social distancing, letting them know that they're coming, dropping off these packages so that they have things to do with their kids. They're really going over and beyond. We're doing trainings of interns with family members being trainers. So we're really trying to approach this from all different angles, to develop their advocacy skills, develop their skills as facilitators, help to build their resumes. So, because a lot of families are out of work. So hopefully that this is an opportunity for them to build their skills so that they can get a job. So we're really trying to look at the whole family. And we also work across the age span. We work from birth to older adult. So so there's a lot going on. We try to provide something for everyone, and really look at, just the whole picture of not just the families, but the providers as well.
Thank you so much, Jevon.
Yeah, when I think about strategies, when I think about what everybody is saying about, the isolation, about making sure that we have, the elected officials becoming and being aware of what's going on within their communities. One strategy that is always a way to support all of development is one, loving self, having that self-love, and then fighting, which is what CCY, California Children's Trust, is doing to develop partnerships, develop collaborations, to provide the immediate supports on the ground, whether that be food, whether that be, as Tanya said, laughter, whether that just be someone to talk to or someone to just listen. And with that, we've also during this time have helped organizations secure funding to continue doing some of the impactful work within their communities, but not limited it there. When it comes to California in regards to drawing down Medicare dollars, we got to do a better job. And so when reaching out to these organizations and helping find resources that are available to them, making sure that they ask the question as to how they can access resources through Medicare. And right now we're all in this education state because we don't know what tomorrow looks like, but we're fighting today so that we can see it tomorrow, so that our young people have, again, something to inherit that is good for them, that has already structured itself to uplift them and empower them, so that the children and the young kids after them and the young adults after them have what they need and what they truly deserve to thrive amongst a world that, you know, we have so many things going on for us, and we have to stop missing opportunities. And so with that, you know, the strategies of self-care, the strategies of just finding those partners, those collaborative community members, those volunteers, because they're there, they want to love, on these young folks, they want to love on these families, and continue to make awareness opportunities for people to know what's going on within the communities, what's going on within the state, so that they have the knowledge to do something about it.
Thank you. And our last speaker for this question, and then we'll have time to go back perhaps for a few minutes. Maya, thank you.
Of course, thank you. You know, following up on the comments of my fellow panelists, I just could not agree more. It really is a redefinition of what well-being looks like for us today and for our young people. And thinking through, you know, I know much of the work that the California Children's Trust is doing and that we're proud to be partners with, is reimagining what child well-being is, what youth well-being is, in order to better meet the needs of young people today. I think so many times our systems wait until a diagnosis, or our systems are set up to be complicated and set up barriers for families, when really much of the power, much of the impact that's happening is based right in our community, and it's performed by community leaders and community organizations that have the trust and connection to community members, to families, to young people that are making that tremendous difference. And that is what we need to seek to the change in the future. How can we uplift our community practices, our healing circles, the leadership that so many communities have taken on, even during this pandemic, to better meet the needs of young people, but to do so in a way that challenges our system to integrate those practices in order to better meet young people. And part of it, for example, has been these partnerships that we've seen between schools and community organizations. Part of it has been seen through collaboratives, multi-sector collaboratives between health and social services, and between young people themselves really leading the way, you know, lifting up, you know, community voice and young people's voice to identify those solutions and ensure that our system is responsive to that is a path that we can follow in order to better meet the needs of young people. And part of what we've done at the Children's Partnership over these few months is listen to our community partners. We did a virtual webinar series, like many of us have done, trying to reach families. And we actually hit on topics that we knew families wanted to hear more about. So for example, we partnered with our immigrant serving organizations to talk about what does healthcare enrollment and coverage look like for immigrant families during this time. There's been so much misinformation, so much confusion, particularly for immigrant families, immigrant young people. How can we clarify the programs for which they're eligible so they can have the security that health coverage provides? Similarly, for all children and families, making sure that health insurance coverage remains a priority even during this time. I think the challenges with telehealth access are real, whether it's not having broadband or not having the hardware, or frankly, not recognizing your own rights as a healthcare consumer to take advantage of telehealth in order to access mental health services or counseling or even preventive services. And being able to open up a dialogue about what that means, how can families have the information that they need to take advantage of telehealth services. It's an empowering path in order to put health first. And that's something that we've been able to do through our community partnerships. And the last one that I'll talk about is we were able to partner with our community organizations in Los Angeles, Inner City Struggle, Gente Organizada in Pomona, and the Children's Defense Fund California, to host a virtual conversation with young people around mental health and everything that was happening. And they focused on thinking, feeling, and doing, and identifying solutions in those three areas that can support young people's well-being during this time. And that was as a result of the leadership of young people that really made clear to us our responsibility in creating pathways to uplift that leadership and ensure that our policymakers are being responsive. So again, as we head into 2021, that's where we're prioritizing our efforts on mental health and mental health access, is moving that upstream and ensuring that young people and community-defined interventions are truly leading the way.
Okay, we have just a few more minutes. Would any of our other panelists want to piggyback or chime in regards to something that they did not get a chance to share? We've had some really good information. Tanya or Lori? Okay, Tanya, great, thank you.
Okay. Yeah, one of the things that I didn't talk about is just and Mayra did allude to it, is the injustice, this racial injustice that's happening in the Black and Brown community. And so when we have been focusing on specifically bringing young people as well as family members to the table where discussions are happening with regards to telehealth, the challenges of telehealth, the challenges of receiving services for our kids with special needs, special education. We've been intentionally bringing family members to the table, and family members of color as well as the youth, to talk specifically about what is happening with them and to even get ideas from them on how things could be done differently. And I know we've been very, very intentional about that, because oftentimes their voices are not heard. And so there continues to be harm done to the community because no one is really taking the time to listen. So that is also part of the work that we're doing. And that's why we're training family members on how to be advocates, on how to facilitate so that they can feel comfortable in speaking about their challenges. We help them to tell their story. And it's not so much about, just being on display, but really it's about coming up with solutions and ideas on how things could be done differently, especially during this pandemic.
Thank you, Tanya. We have one question. How can public partner agencies at the county level authentically demonstrate willingness to share governance and power with youth and caregivers? Does anyone want to take a stab at that question?
This is Javon.
Thank you.
When I think about that question, it's this simple. Where decisions are made, who's at the table? You want to get people involved. You want to make sure that communities are taken care of. You want to make sure that the voices are heard. Get some parents on that around that table. Get some young people around that table. But don't just get them around the table to check a box. Make sure that there is true power within their position that they hold. Because again, one things that come across my mind is we are all family. We are all connected. Black, brown, blue, green, whatever else. And then when it comes to our young people, they all are inheriting this world after we leave, after I leave, after have them at the table.
Anyone else? Mayra?
Sure. So I think following up on what Javon was saying, not only including young people at the table, but having a more inclusive process to arrive at solutions. So I have the distinct honor of serving on our Mental Health Commission for the state of California. And one of the areas in which the commission is tackling right now is updating our prevention and early intervention regulations in response to legislation. And part of it has been doing community sessions in order to receive input on what does prevention and early intervention look like. And I think for so many marginalized communities, for many young people, traditional mental health services are not enough. It really is redefining what mental health supports and services are in the community in order to ensure our mental health dollars are accurately responding to the needs. And that looks different, right? It could be learning about our culture, learning about the history of Black communities in California and their contributions, the history of Latinx leaders in our community, and building culture and pride in our young people. That, you know, there's organizations that focus on building that cultural pride and cultural understanding in order to improve the mental health of young people. But when we're traditionally having these when we're having these conversations within the confines of our Western medicine defined healthcare system, we are limited in our ability to make change. And I think, you know, to Javon's point about inclusion, it's how can we really think outside that box in order to be more responsive. So whether that's the process in which you include people's community input, the ability to provide feedback in real time, these are all components of government agencies really opening their doors in order to solicit and meaningfully receive community input.
Thank you. We have a question for Tanya. What are a couple of examples of ideas youth have about improving telehealth, and what could we do differently?
One of the challenges that we're finding with young people is that, well, there's the issue of not having enough devices, that they're sharing devices with other family members. There's always that challenge. But the other piece is just kind of meeting the young people where they are. I feel like Jevon would be better to answer this question, but to kind of meet the young people where they are, to understand that that young people may not want to tell their story on telehealth, that it may not be the best venue for them. Maybe it is meeting outside somewhere where they can social distance, that there just needs to be a variety, and that it is not just about this is how we're going to do it, and so therefore we just need to do it. Oftentimes, I think what Mayra said was really critical in that we have this Western European way of doing mental health services. And if you're talking about the Black community, that just doesn't work for the Black community. Young people need to move. Young people need to know that they can trust you. And oftentimes it means getting outside of that bubble, if you will, and go somewhere where you feel that, okay, I understand this person. I get where this person's coming from. Now I feel like I can trust them. But we're still having this conversation. We're meeting again, I think next week, we're actually meeting again with the youth to have more conversation about what can we do to reach out to the youth during this time. And if it's not telehealth, then how can we safely meet with the young people during this time?
Thank you. I'm going to ask maybe, Jevon, we have a few minutes left. Do you want to comment about telehealth and what could be done differently?
Yeah, well, done differently, I think, you know, we're in a trial and error state right now when it comes to telehealth. In the past, we could have done a better job at meeting those young people in person. Again, has already been highlighted, meeting young people where they are and allowing them the opportunity to get where they dream, because they have dreams. And so again, you know, back to Tanya, we're making sure that whatever compatible devices are accessible, broadband is accessible. We got rural communities that have some challenges when it comes to, you know, broadband. But right now, really, in our next session, that is right after this, we have some young people who are going to talk about, you know, some things that will give some insight to what they see as important to them during this time. And when the conversation of trust is true, because you have to trust somebody in order to tell your truth so that you have the opportunity to heal. And when you have the opportunity to heal, you have the opportunity to fly. And so that takes time, and telehealth is one component. In person, we know connection, that's very important. And I know there's conversations happening around the state about bolstering mentor opportunities for not just, folks who have the accolades of being a professional here, but getting community involved, getting peers involved. Young people are very, very ignited right now and activated to supporting each other. So we have a lot of things that we are, in the phases of, getting telehealth bolstered, getting support, mental health support to young people bolstered. We definitely have some opportunities there, but time is something we have to consider with that.
Well, thank you. And thanks you all for providing such really good information to all of our participants today. We really apologize for the internet, which is something that we attempted to mediate, and hopefully you all were able to hear as many of the good resources that our speakers were sharing today. So I'm thinking that Richard is going to come on and share a little bit about moving into our next session.
Thanks, Mildred, and what a terrific and timely conversation you've led for us this last hour. Thank you so much, Jevon, Tanya, Lori, Mayra, and Mildred. Fantastic. The transformation that our public agencies need will only be sustained when the voices of young people and their caregivers are heard authentically by public agencies. So this is such critical work. We have a quick turn, 2 minutes to our next session. Please feel free to click on the next session, and it'll be starting up here about 9:55, after which we'll have a break. And the next session is more focused conversation similar to this one on youth. And so we'll look forward to visiting with you all there. Thanks again.